All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me again here on today's tip. Today, what we're talking about in the 23 best home selling tips I've learned as a broker in 23 years of practice. Tip number 7 is, what are closing costs? What are closing costs? Now, when you think about it, many sellers are curious to know what the common closing costs are, who pays them, and really how much could you really expect? Now, obviously, as each state is different, it's going to be tough to get exact numbers on each state. But, I can say a few generalities for you. So let's just go ahead and talk about, in general, what are closing costs? Closing costs essentially are the costs associated with the transferring of the title of the property from one person to another. There's a lot of different fees that are involved. We'll go over what they are, but more specifically, it's all those fees that are involved in that. Now, the buyer has closing costs and the seller has closing costs, right? Now, it's really important that you understand that. There's a lot of times when I've been in a consultation with a seller and we get to the discussion of closing costs and they're surprised to learn how much they are. So it's really important that you pay attention to that. So what are they? Now, we talked about the fact that you have them. So what are these closing costs? Well, it depends on the state. But generally speaking, fees that are related to the transaction can include title fees, escrow fees. If you have an escrow attorney, that sort of thing. If you're in an attorney closing state, there'll be an attorney fee. I wrote down title insurance, taxes, any realtor fees if you have a commission involved, septic inspections, recording fees, surveys, any kind of transfer taxes that you might be having to pay in your state. All of these different fees can be considered transfer fees. Also, HOA fees. Many times an HOA will have a transfer fee. If you're trying to leave, they'll have a resale documentation fee or something along those lines. Now, a lot of these fees, you're probably going to be aware of right up front, but some of these fees you may not be aware of. So you'll definitely want to check with your real estate professional and have them check those out for you and make sure that those are understood. So let's talk about how much does this really cost. Now, again, this can vary from state to state depending on where you are, right? But when you think about sellers, all right, sellers generally, I tell them, at least here in Arizona, to expect that the costs are going to be, anywhere from 1.5% to 2% of the sales price here in Arizona. Now, I've seen in other places it could be, 1.75 to 2% of the sales price. Now, when you think about it, if you've got a commission on top of that, and I'm not saying commissions aren't worth it, because they are. Believe you, if you've got a good agent, they'll be able to negotiate far better for their commission. But when you think about it, you've got your commission, and then you also have your closing costs. And that usually is a function of the sales price. Now, buyers, on the other hand, have somewhere between 2 to 5% worth of closing costs, depending on where they are, of the sales price. And again, don't hate me in the comments. Don't share this with everybody. Tell me what an idiot I am. I am just saying this is in generalities, depending on where you are. So the big key thing that you want to understand about closing costs, however, is that they're negotiable. Many times they're very negotiable, depending on where you are and the type of offering that you've made so far. So hopefully that's been helpful to you. Thank you so much, and have, as always, a powerful sales day. Bye-bye.